All right. Just making sure everyone's back from their breakout rooms. Hopefully, I know it was quick, but hopefully you got to meet some folks and have a few discussions. Feel free to continue those discussions in the chat while we're continuing on with this conversation. I also invite you to, if you have any questions about the legislation that we're about to go over, feel free to type it in the chat in the QA section. The breakout rooms will be the best time to ask, get these questions answered. But just so you don't forget them, type them in the chat, type them in the QA button, and we'll make sure that one of us on staff will be able to answer your question or at least redirect you. But with that, I'm going to, and you guys can see my screen again when you're
Yep.
back up. Sweet. All right. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to our federal legislation section and hand it over to Amanda and Candia.
Hey everyone, my name is Amanda Hall. I'm the Senior Director of National Campaigns. I want to start us off by talking about some federal legislative priorities, but Candia, our fearless Government Affairs Director, is going to bring it home. So you all only have to deal with me for a few minutes before you get to hear Candia's amazing voice and his amazing thoughts. But yeah, so we wanted to kick it off and tell you about a new campaign over here at dream.org. In August, the end of August, we launched our Public Health is Public Safety campaign. This campaign has to deal with really building communities of care as opposed to criminalization. So, unfortunately, things like mental health, substance use, there's so many things that we continue to criminalize. And working at the intersection of criminal justice and health for as many years as I have, I just keep seeing numbers be devastating. Between 2011 and 2018, overdoses while incarcerated increased 600%. So the people that we love are dying within facilities. When they get out, folks are 27 more times more likely to die of a fatal overdose. We're seeing bills to criminalize things like mental health, substance use disorder, that are leaving families without parents, taking kids away from mothers, and devastating whole communities. So this campaign is all around how do we shift that narrative? How do we show that taking care of the folks that we love, our communities, actually makes us safer? And it does. Stats show us that. We know that as people that have maybe lived through those systems. But our Public Health is Public Safety campaign, we're working on legislative and or executive actions in 5 states. So that's Kentucky, Arkansas, New Mexico, Arizona. Oh, not yet. Uh, and also, we are working with our health and justice ambassadors, which is our next slide. So, for the first time ever, though we work on a lot of legislative priorities and really try to get to the people that hold power that can change our laws, we also know that people power, organizing and building communities is essential. We cannot do this work without community, without people by our side. So, our first ever health and justice ambassadors, uh, and these ladies are powerhouses. So we have Sandra in Oregon, Emily in Mississippi, uh, LaShondra out in Arkansas, and Sheena in Missouri. Right now, they are organizing in their communities, telling folks about the campaign, building this infrastructure. Right now, federally, there is some things happening. We hear about it all the time. But how do we build an infrastructure of people to protect our communities, to make us safer? And these amazing individuals are starting to help us with that. Next slide, please. So, on the federal level, which is this section, while y'all came here to hear about. We are launching our first big action for the Public Health is Public Safety campaign. In April, we are going to have a virtual lobby day. So, what we want, and don't get me wrong, later in the year, we'll have some in person lobby days as well. But right now, what we want is for folks to be able to meet with their members of Congress, to tell them why investing in communities as opposed to furthering the carceral system, continuing to lock folks up is not making us safer. What makes us safer is mental health resources, people being able to access treatment, people being able to clear their records, to have good jobs and provide for their family. So we definitely need you all to join the Public Health is Public Safety campaign, and come join us for this virtual lobby day. We definitely want to give y'all an opportunity to meet with those folks who are elected to represent you. They work for you. They are supposed to do your bidding. So come and tell them what your communities need, what kind of changes that need to take place. If you are interested in joining this, please fill out the form that's in the chat. You'll be able to have these meetings with someone on the dream.org team. You know, we did this a year ago or two around another federal bill, and that day we got numerous co-sponsors on both sides of the aisle because they need to hear from their constituents. So now Candia is going to tell us a little bit more about these federal priorities and what we're going to be working on together. Candia?
Yeah, thanks, Amanda, and thank you for the introduction to the Public Health is Public Safety campaign. As you were talking about the Public Health is Public Safety campaign, I can't help but to remember a symposium I went to at the University of Michigan not long ago, where they brought together a number of academic institutions that included University of Virginia, Duke, Harvard, as well as others, and they all declared that mass incarceration is a public health crisis. And so, you know, the name Public Health is Public Safety didn't just come from nowhere. There's a body of research that supports our campaign and our effort, and so it is evidence-based. And let me also state that, you know, Amanda touched on, you know, the history of our Empathy Network being engaged in our federal campaigns vis-a-vis lobby days. And I always say this, and as much as I say this, I think I don't say it enough. And that is the success that we've enjoyed in passing bills at the federal level, or being successful in different initiatives and getting co-sponsors. That the success we've enjoyed is due to your efforts. We don't have the success that we have on our government affairs side without your engagement. Your engagement transcends party lines because you are the constituents. And there is a history that has bear that out. Like, you know, there were Republicans that many thought were not gettable. And it was you, our Empathy Network, that was successful in getting them. And so you're important to this campaign. And so as I talk about, as much as I'm going to talk about these pieces of legislation, and it's important for you to engage in it and really know about them, I just need you to know that your energy, the energy you bring to our campaigns is what drives the success. And I'm going to talk about, I think we have 4 bills that we're going to discuss today, but know that there are a number of bills that we'll be discussing and lobbying on throughout the year. But these are just the 4 bills that we're going to lobby on the 9th. And so the first bill is the Reentry Act, which allows individuals to have access to Medicaid 30 days before they are released from their incarceration. And we will have a training on all of this for those who sign up. But we just want to give you a sort of primer for what we're going to be talking about on the 9th. The next piece of legislation is the Due Process Continuity of Care Act, which allows folks who are held on pretrial to maintain their their Medicaid benefits while incarcerated. As you know, access to health care is important, for folks as they are looking, really looking to maintain their health and be productive in our society. And so we think that those two bills are really work in tandem with one another. And so we'll be lobbying for those. Another bill that we're going to lobby on is the Clean Slate Act, which allows for record sealing for federal cases. Right now, as you may know, you cannot get an expungement if you have a federal record. And so we think it's, after a certain period of time, that federal record should be expunged automatically. And so we are supporting this piece of legislation on the 9th as well. Then the next piece of legislation is the mens rea reform, which speaks to, right now there's a low burden that the government has to reach in order to prove state of mind. And so we think that, you can't tell me what I was thinking or tell me what I knew at the time that something was going down. And so we think the government needs there needs to be a higher burden of proof relative to state of mind. And so we are going to partner with actually right-leaning organizations to advance this piece of legislation. Many of you may be aware of discussions that we've had in the past around conspiracy reforms. We don't think it's a climate right now for conspiracy reforms. And so mens rea in our effort is an entree into conspiracy reforms. And so we will talk about these bills in detail as we get closer to the lobby day. And so we look forward to everyone's participation. We have 74 folks on the call. It would be great if we can get to 74 members of Congress. Some of the other bills that you may hear us talking about are the Restore Act, which restores SNAP benefits to people with drug felony convictions. And then another bill is the Fair Future Act, which repeals the Thurmond Amendment and restores housing rights for people with drug felony convictions. And so we will have probably separate lobby days on those, but you will hear us talk about those bills as well. And so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Amanda, and we will get you involved. Or if you don't have our contact, in fact, we can put our contact, I'll put my contact in the chat. And please feel free to get in touch with us.
And well, if you have any questions, you can add them to the breakout session because both of you guys will be in the federal breakout room. But I'm going to pass it over to Lauren